Starting at the Alms Hotel, this is where the chase began. Remus waited right here for Imogene and Ruth to come out of the building. He hoped that Franklin Dodge was with them, but he realized he wasn't, and he was upset. They pulled out of that driveway right there, and now they're headed straight down Victory Parkway, because this takes you right into town in the 1920s. McMillan was one of the major streets, so this cross street is where they followed. Remus yelled at George Klug, "Follow that car, cut them off, do whatever you have to do. I have to speak to Imogene." And they came driving down this way. On that October morning, it was rush hour, so there were cars everywhere. This was one of the main thoroughfares to get downtown. The driver of the cab thought that this was only about a third of a mile, but actually it's just a little bit further. But it shouldn't take us too long. Many of these buildings are exactly the same way they would have looked at that time, though some of these parking lots have been cut out in the interim since the mid-1920s, late 1920s. So, as the cab was going this way, Ruth was reading to her mother, reading about a birthday letter that she had received from a friend. And they were laughing and giggling, and they didn't realize this would be the last 5 minutes of Imogene's life. So now we're starting to approach Eden Park. This bridge is one of the final thoroughfares before you get to the park. This is where it becomes Eden Park Drive. This bridge is one of the main landmarks of Cincinnati, and in the 1920s this bridge was a major landmark. Remus had passed them and was waiting here by this brick wall, and this is the first time that he forced them off the road. They zipped over like this, and Remus forced them off the road right in front of the conservatory. Then Ruth screamed, "Get going." As George jumped out of the car, they took off and they came down this direction. The taxi driver was freaking out because he didn't know what to do. Ruth was screaming, Imogene was screaming, and they came down this drive, and it's very narrow here. It's very sharp, and it begins one way. And this is where Remus comes flying down the road, has his driver push Imogene's taxi off the side of the road. So right in this spot where this curve starts to open up to the reservoir is where Imogene is going to take her final breaths. They come down this road. George's driver took a chance because, like this car, this is only 2 lanes. He almost brushed a car as they went by. They pulled over right about here. Now we can't pull over here because we'll get rear-ended, but maybe we can come up here. On the left is the reservoir. They had already stopped back there. People think that the murder took place over on that side, that they had come down Fulton. But the murder actually took place right back on that spot. When Imogene got out of the car and was bleeding, they turned the car around and went back and retraced the steps that we had just taken. Now we're going to go over to Eden Park and film.